What if your New Year backdrop could instantly become the highlight of the entire celebration? What if one single backdrop could turn ordinary moments into unforgettable memories? What if your guests stop scrolling on their phones just to admire your decor? What if photos taken in front of your backdrop feel like they belong on a magazine cover? What if you don't need expensive designers or complicated setups to achieve that look? What if your backdrop reflects not just the new year, but your personality? What if small changes bring a massive visual impact? What if the right backdrop makes every countdown photo feel magical? What if this new year finally feels visually special instead of repetitive? Stay connected and explore all the inspiration shared throughout this video to spark fresh decorating ideas. Why does the backdrop matter more than any other decoration on New Year's Eve? Why is the backdrop always the first thing people notice when they enter a space? Why do most New Year photos revolve around one main background? Why does a well-designed backdrop instantly elevate even simple decor? Why can balloons and lights look average without a strong focal point? Why do professionally styled events always prioritize backdrops first? Why does the backdrop set the entire mood of the celebration? Why can a plain wall ruin even the best outfits in photos? Why does one background define the vibe of the whole night? Keep watching closely and absorb each idea to understand how details transform a space. How can you create a stunning New Year backdrop even with a limited budget? How can everyday items be transformed into elegant backdrops? How can lights, fabric, and paper create a luxury feel? How can creativity replace expensive decor pieces? How can minimalism sometimes look more premium than overload? How can DIY elements still look polished and intentional? How can balance make budget decor look thoughtfully designed? How can layering textures change the entire backdrop effect? How can lighting alone redefine your background? Save these ideas mentally and revisit them while planning your setup. What backdrop styles are trending this new year, and why are they so popular? What makes metallic tones so timeless for New Year celebrations? What's driving the popularity of black, gold, and champagne palettes? Why are minimal backdrops becoming more desirable than crowded ones? Why do soft lights and neutral textures feel so elegant? What makes balloon garlands evolve every single year? Why are curtain lights still dominating New Year aesthetics? What makes personalized text and numbers so visually powerful? Why do modern backdrops feel calm yet festive? Continue exploring to understand how trends can inspire your own unique setup. How do backdrops influence photos, videos, and memories of the night? How does lighting affect skin tone and mood in photos? How does background color enhance outfits and decor? How does a clean backdrop reduce visual distractions? How does symmetry make images look professionally styled? How does texture add depth to photos and reels? How does a good backdrop increase social media-worthy moments? How does it help create consistent visual storytelling? How does it turn simple clicks into cherished memories? Let these visuals guide your creative choices as you watch further. What mistakes should you avoid when designing a New Year backdrop? What happens when too many colors clash together? What happens when lighting is ignored or poorly placed? What happens when scale and proportion aren't considered? What happens when the backdrop doesn't match the theme? What happens when decor looks rushed instead of intentional? What happens when clutter steals attention from the focal point? What happens when balance is missing in design? What happens when trends are followed without personalization? Observe carefully and refine your ideas using the insights shared ahead. How can you personalize your New Year backdrop to make it truly yours? How can name initials or year numbers add meaning? How can color choices reflect your personal taste? How can small symbolic elements tell your story? How can handmade touches add warmth to decor? How can simplicity express elegance and intention? How can personal themes elevate visual storytelling? How can meaningful details create emotional connection? How can your backdrop represent new beginnings? Keep gathering inspiration and let your creativity shape the final look. How can one backdrop work for photos, videos, and the entire night? How can versatile layouts adapt to different camera angles? How can layered lighting support both photos and videos? How can neutral bases allow flexible styling? How can minimal decor avoid visual fatigue? How can movable elements refresh the setup? How can one backdrop last from evening to midnight? How can it feel exciting every time someone sees it? How can functionality meet aesthetics effortlessly? Stay engaged and visualize how these ideas fit your celebration space. Are you ready to transform an ordinary wall into a New Year statement piece? Are you ready to welcome the new year with intention and beauty? Are you ready to create a space that feels festive yet refined? Are you ready to design moments worth remembering? Are you ready to turn inspiration into action? Are you ready to upgrade your celebration experience? Are you ready to impress without overdoing? Are you ready to make this new year visually unforgettable? Are you ready to start fresh with creativity and confidence? Stay present throughout the video and let every idea guide your setup. What if this New Year backdrop becomes the moment everyone remembers? What if this backdrop becomes the place where laughter, countdowns, and photos meet? What if years later, these images instantly bring back the feeling of this night? What if one creative setup holds an entire memory of new beginnings? What if your backdrop quietly becomes part of your story? What if this new year starts with beauty, intention, and warmth? What if the simplest wall turns into the most meaningful space of the celebration? A New Year backdrop isn't just decoration, it's the heart of the celebration. It sets the mood, frames the memories, and tells a visual story of new beginnings. With the right ideas, thoughtful layering, and creative lighting, even the simplest space can feel extraordinary. This new year, your backdrop can reflect hope, elegance, and intention, without stress or excess. Every idea shared in this video is designed to help you create something beautiful, meaningful, and unforgettable.